Hey guys, it's your boy Mark from Afro Indigenous Tech Talk. So I wanted to go over some things and make a video about cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, Web3, etc. And I kind of want to make the video from a different angle than what the regular audience are used to, as far as like pumping pumping dump coins, 100x, 10x, making money and stuff like that. Because yeah, we came into cryptocurrency to make money, right? Everybody did. You know what I'm saying? I did as well, right? I came in it to make money. You know what I'm saying? I saw it as a new way to, it's for the little guy to make it within the rigged system, because the system as it is rigged. You know, it is set up and it's supposed to be that way. It was set up that way, right? The system that we complain about today is nothing but the extended empire of Rome, right? The system that we complain about, people don't want to name it, but it's the United States government, right? It's the United States empire. It's nothing. It's nothing different from what they did in Rome and what they did in Britain. It's the same empire, right? They come, they take the land, they extract the resource, they use people as labor, cheap labor, right? They tax their citizens, right? They train their citizens to be consumers and not builders, etc. And as time went along, right, technology became more advanced, right? So these empires adapted technology to what? To scale the system. That's all they did. They used technology to scale the system, right? Because if you can scale the system, right, then you can scale your influence globally. And this is where we at right now, where cryptocurrency, AI technology, right? Now they coming out with humanoid robots. Is nothing It's nothing more than scaling the empire and the ideology of control capitalism. That's it. Control capitalism. And who does this affect more than anything? First, it affects marginalized communities like Black Americans and Africans and Indigenous people. Because why? Because they've been throughout. If anybody pay attention to history, right? Africans and indigenous people governed themselves before Europe. That's a fact. If you don't want to know the facts and stuff like that, if you don't want to acknowledge the fact, then you're lost. Because African people and indigenous people, right? They was melanated too. The indigenous people in the Americas were melanated too, right? They governed themselves, but they didn't govern themselves. They didn't have the same governance as Rome. Rome adopted the governance style of the indigenous and African people, but then they put a spin to it. Instead of making the world a lot better, they made it a lot worse. They made it a lot worse, right? Why? Because they use it as a way to extract from the people in the earth, right? Why you see that we got homeless people? We got homeless shelter, right? People are more depressed. Mental health and mental illness is at an all-time high. You know what I'm saying? Suicide rates. People don't even know what their purpose is, right? Because this is what their system was designed to be, right? All these billionaires that y'all look up to, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Trump and them, they know different from what they did back in Rome, right? They come and they extract the resources and stuff like that. They promote propaganda, right? They use people's psychology, right? Because people were not aware of what's going on and how things work, right? These people in the back end, right? They doing deals and stuff like that. They cutting money deals and stuff. So why? Because they want to control the future. They want to control the minds of the people, and that's how you do it, right? So I wanted to go over why Trump wanted to pass these stablecoins bills, right? Because they want to come out with their CBDCs, which CBDCs is already created. I don't know why people say, "Oh, well, CBDCs are already created." We got USDT and we got USDC, right? These are stable coins. They might not, because the banks are already going to adopt this technology, right? Why would they want to make their own CBDC when they can just adopt USDC and USDT? They're going to use their technology, right? Because they have the liquidity and stuff like that. They have more. They have so much liquidity, it's crazy, right? So stablecoins like USDT and USDC don't abolish empire finance. They digitalize it, automate it, and scale it globally, right? So if you don't know what that means, guys, is that fiat currency, the only kind of downside of fiat currency, right? You can't really scale it globally, right? Because I mean, you can't really scale it globally and stuff like that because it's paper money. You can't really scale paper money, even if you want to go out of space, right? You can't bring physical cash out of space. It has to be digitalized and stuff. So this is the reason why USDC and USDT is more suitable in the more digitalized areas, on digitalized, technologized AI era. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean, right? Because they can scale globally, right? So, in Rome, only the empire could mint coins, because in Rome they minted coins. Debasement, expansion, restrictions was political tools. So they debase the currency, they expand the currency, right? And then they restrict it, you know what I'm saying? They restrict currency, right? With USDT and USDC, one issuer can mint, because this is about digital currency, because they can mint billions and billions of these tokens on a blockchain. One issuer can redeem and one issuer can halt insurance. Programmability added insurance can now respond instantly to policies, pressure, or crisis. No Senate, no delay. Freeze and blacklist power equals digital exile. A defining imperial future is the power of exclude. Stablecoins now have address blacklisting, transaction freeze, forced compliance with state order. This is Rome citizenship logic and digitalized. You may trade until you are excluded. Exclusion requires no trial on chain. Code executes the sentence. A currency that can be frozen at will is not neutral money, right? So basically, right, as they upgrade this monetary system, right, they can do these things. They can blacklist you. They can freeze your transaction, right? They can force compliance, because if they hold all the liquidity and capital, they have power, right? They can force compliance with state orders, right? You can, like I said, you may trade it until you are excluded. So if you get out of line, you out of there, right? Exclusion requires no trial on chain. So they can just get you out of there with nothing, right? Code executes the sentence. So they can, right, they program the code, boom, 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 boom. You say something, you go against them, you out of there. And I think this is what the social credit score, people are talking about the social credit scores, because if you don't like what the government are doing, the the powers that be are doing, they can freeze your wallets, right? Because they're gonna use the same thing as far as people. You heard about people getting their bank accounts freeze or holding their money. They're gonna do the same thing in cryptocurrency and blockchain. So you think it's decentralized, but it's not really decentralized because the United States empire don't believe in decentralized capitalism or decentralized governance. They don't believe in it. If you study the United States empire, they don't believe in that. They believe in taking your resources, extracting from you, and the people that's living on that land, you either assimilate or you die. That's it. That's just it. You assimilate or you die. You don't eat. Right? And the reason why African and black people wasn't able to recover from this, right? Because money back then wasn't programmable, right? The United States dollar became the dominant force throughout the world globally. Black people or African people didn't have nothing to compete with that, right? We didn't have no power to influence and do trade and stuff like that, right? So we had to assimilate, you know what I'm saying? We ain't had no choice but to assimilate. Now, some people might look at this and be like, well, that's a good thing because black people don't build anything. Yes, we did have civilization. We probably didn't have civilization at scale as it is today because we didn't believe in extracting from the earth. We didn't believe that wasn't our style of governance. And that's the thing where Europeans don't really understand. Their style of governance and empire was to extract from people and extract from the land. That's just point blank. Any Europeans can look back at their history and study how their system worked. Their system is to extract. That's it. Extract and leave the people spiritually broke. Right? Why you think when Christopher Columbus, he came to the Caribbean and he enslaved the people, they start killing it. They start killing themselves. Why? Because nigga, come on. You come in there, you start taking the land, you extract the resources, you think these people gonna want to just live in hell? No. That's where the heaven and hell came from, right? When they came with their religion, their Bible, that's where the heaven and hell came from, because before we was living in harmony, we was living within nature, right? We had our own governance councils and stuff like that. We didn't have like a patriarchy over male dominant society. It wasn't like that. When they came, they switched, they flipped the script on us. They flipped the script, right? They flipped that. They came with their own religion, they came with their own doctrine, and they came with their currency. Every empire comes with their own currency because the currency creates value, right? We did have our own currency too. We traded back and forth, you know what I'm saying, with the goods and stuff like that, with gold, silver, boom, boom, boom. But they came with their own currency. But their currency was more centralized, right? You buy by our rules and stuff like that, we'll let you eat, boom, boom, boom. That's why our people think they're free today. You're not free. You're complying. That's the difference. You're not free. You're just complying or assimilating. That's it. So surveillance by default equals census at planetary scale. Rome relied on census, tax registry, citizenship records, right? So this is what stablecoins enable: wallet level tracking, transaction graph analysis, behavioral interface, automated compliance, right? Surveillance is no longer enforced by soldiers. It is enforced by infrastructure. So they don't have to come and blow up. If you don't got no, hey, boom, you out of there. You're freezing your wallet, freezing your bank account, you out. Because humans has been conditioned to look at currency as a way to live now and stuff. Yes, we have been trained to, hey, if you don't got no money, you broke, you have no value and stuff, right? But, you know what I'm saying? If you assimilate it within the infrastructure or within the system that can control how your family moves and eat, then are you really free? Right? So this is why I feel like they wanted Trump in office to pass these stablecoin bills, right? Stablecoins laws are framed as consumer protection, financial stability, innovation, clarity, right? But structurally, they are raise compliant costs, favor increments, criminalize grassroots insurance, make community currency legally fragile. This mirrors Rome. This mirrors Rome trade allowed only on imperial roads, only with imperial coins. Right? So basically, hey, our coins is better. Our currency is better. Everybody else currency and coins are crap. That's just how they when everybody else had their currency and stuff like that. The United States dollar was the dominant. Everybody else currency inflated, went up the flames. Meaning that, hey, because the United States had all the infrastructure, they built that. See, the reason why these other countries wasn't able to compete because the U.S. came and took the resources from them to build up the infrastructure. Why you think they going to Venezuela right now? They want Venezuela because they gonna take over they gonna indoctrinate the Venezuelan with their currency, right? With their ideology, with their holidays, and give them what? And take over and take over the infrastructure. This is how they work. This is how their empire works, right? But this is a genius move though. USDC and USDT and USDC extend dollar dominance globally, which I just said. Physical cash wasn't able to do that, but globally through digital, yes, without extending U.S. citizenship, right? Without democratic accountability, without fair balance sheet risk, empire without responsibility, right? Why this is faster than historical Rome? Rome needed armies, roads, governors, and time. Programmable empires need code, cloud, compliance, API, network effects. Right? You just need a code, you need clouds, you need compliance APIs, you need network effects. They don't need to come blow up and they don't need that no more. Why do you think all the trade deals that Trump been doing has to consist with AI and data centers? Data centers. If you look at all the trade deals that Trump did this year with each and every country, it was about data. It was about AI. It's about humanoids. Pay attention, because this is where things are heading. This is where things are heading, right? This is where things are heading to.